Snow fell upon the city like a silent verdict, thick and cold enough to erase every sound. In the middle of that whiteout, a black single father stood by the roadside, his warm brown hands clutching his shivering son in his arms as his old truck died without warning. He didn't know that just a few meters ahead, a stranger, a single mother, panicked and alone, was also trapped in the blizzard. When he opened his home to offer her shelter, he had no idea that moment was about to change both their lives. Andre Cole woke at 5:30 every morning, winter or summer, without an alarm. His body had learned the rhythm years ago, before Jaden was born, before Jasmine died, before everything broke and had to be rebuilt piece by piece. The radiator in their rental apartment clicked and hissed, fighting against the January cold creeping through the window frames. Andre pulled on his thermal work pants, 2 layers of shirts, and the heavy canvas jacket with the City Utilities logo stitched across the back. Outside, North Bridge was still dark, the streetlights casting orange pools on pavement that had already been salted twice this week. He moved quietly through the small apartment. Jaden's door was cracked open, and through it, Andre could see his son's small form buried under blankets, one arm thrown over the stuffed elephant Jasmine had given him 4 years ago. The elephant's name was Peanut. Jaden took it everywhere. In the kitchen, Andre made coffee in the same chipped mug he'd used since college. His deep brown face was still soft with sleep, eyes steady as he moved through the familiar motions. He packed Jaden's lunch, peanut butter sandwich, apple slices, string cheese, crackers. Nothing fancy, but nutritious, consistent. The school counselor had told him once that consistency mattered more than perfection for kids who'd lost a parent. Andre had held on to that. The radio murmured, weather warnings, another system moving in from the northwest. Heavy snow expected by afternoon. Northbridge Emergency Management is advising residents to stay home after 3 o'clock. Andre checked his phone. His supervisor had already texted, priority repairs only today, get home early. He finished his coffee and woke Jaden at 6:15. Morning, buddy. Is it a school day? Yeah, but we might leave early because of the snow. How much snow? A lot. Jaden sat up, suddenly interested. Can we build a fort? Maybe tomorrow. Today you're going to help me get ready. Okay. They moved through the morning routine together. Breakfast, teeth, backpack. Andre had learned to build extra time into everything. Time for Jaden to tie his shoes 3 times. Time for him to decide which toy to bring in the car. Time for the questions that came in unpredictable bursts. By 7:30 they were outside. The air tasted metallic, the kind of cold that made your teeth ache. Andre's truck, a 15-year-old Ford with rust patches along the wheel wells, took 3 tries to start. The engine coughed, caught, settled into an uneven idle. Seatbelt, Andre said. Jaden clicked it into place. Dad? Yeah? Are you worried about the storm? Andre glanced at his son in the rearview mirror. Jaden had Jasmine's eyes, dark, serious, always watching a little. A little, Andre said honestly. But we've been through storms before. Will the lights stay on? I'll make sure of it. That was Andre's job. He maintained the infrastructure that kept Northbridge running. Traffic signals, streetlights, emergency systems. When storms hit, he was one of the people who went out into the cold to fix what broke. It wasn't glamorous work, but it mattered. He dropped Jaden at Riverside Elementary at 10 minutes to 8. The parking lot was already half empty. Parents were keeping kids home. Andre hesitated for a moment, should he do the same? But Jaden had a reading test today, and he'd been practicing all week. I'll pick you up early, Andre promised, walking Jaden to the door, before the storm gets bad. Okay. Jaden hugged him quickly, then ran inside. Andre watched until he disappeared down the hallway. Then he got back in the truck and drove to the maintenance yard. The day passed in a blur of preparation. Andre and his crew prepositioned equipment, checked backup generators, cleared storm drains. By noon, the sky had turned the color of old concrete. By 1 o'clock, the first flakes were falling. At 2:15, Andre's supervisor called him into the office. Go get your kid, Tom said. Roads are going to be bad in an hour. Andre didn't argue. He grabbed his jacket and headed for the truck. The snow was falling harder now, fat flakes that stuck to the windshield faster than the wipers could clear them. Andre drove carefully, both hands on the wheel. The streets were emptying out. Businesses were closing early. The city had that muffled waiting quality it got before major weather events. He made it to Riverside Elementary at 2:40. Jaden was waiting in the lobby with his teacher, Mrs. Patterson, and 3 other kids whose parents hadn't arrived yet. "Thanks for staying with him," Andre said. "Of course," Mrs. Patterson smiled, but her eyes kept flicking toward the windows. "Drive safe." Jaden climbed into the truck and buckled himself in. "Is it bad?" he asked. "Getting there." They pulled out of the parking lot and onto Riverside Drive. Visibility was dropping fast. Andre turned on his hazards and slowed to 25 mph. The truck's heater rattled but didn't produce much warmth. "Dad," Jaden's voice was small. "Yeah, buddy, I'm cold." "I know, we'll be home soon." They were 3 blocks from their apartment when the truck shuddered. Andre felt it in the steering wheel first, a loss of power, a stuttering in the engine. He eased toward the curb, hoping he could make it to a safe spot, but the engine gave one final cough and died. He tried to restart it. Nothing. Not even a click. "It's okay." Andre kept his voice calm even as his mind raced through calculations. 3 blocks, a 15-minute walk in good weather, 25 or 30 in this. Jaden's coat was warm enough, but his boots were old, and the snow was already 6 inches deep and rising. "No choice. We're gonna walk." "Okay," Jaden nodded, trusting. Andre grabbed their emergency bag from behind the seat, flashlight, blanket, first aid kit, water bottles. He came around to Jaden's side, unbuckled him, and lifted him out. The wind hit them immediately, sharp and relentless. "Hold on to me." Jaden wrapped his arms around Andre's neck. Andre pulled the blanket over both of them and started walking. The world disappeared into white. Andre kept his head down, one arm holding Jaden against his chest, the other hand gripping the emergency bag. The sidewalk was invisible under the accumulating snow. He navigated by instinct and memory, counting blocks, tracking the dark shapes of buildings on either side. Jaden's face was pressed against his shoulder. "Dad, I can't see anything." "I know. Keep your eyes closed. I've got you." The wind pushed against them like a living thing. Andre's legs burned. His face went numb, but he kept moving step by step because stopping wasn't an option. He'd learned that years ago in the weeks after Jasmine died, when getting out of bed felt impossible, but he did it anyway because Jaden needed him. "Keep moving. Don't stop. You can rest when you're home." But the cold was worse than he'd expected. His fingers were losing sensation. Jaden's breathing had gone shallow and rapid. They needed shelter now, not in 20 minutes now. Andre squinted through the snow, looking for any business that might still be open. But the street was deserted. Every door was dark. Then, through the white curtain, he saw a light. Not a business, a vehicle. An SUV, dark green or maybe black, stopped in the middle of the road with its hazards flashing. The driver's side door was open and someone was standing beside it, a figure in a long coat holding a phone to their ear. Andre hesitated. Every instinct told him to keep moving, to get Jaden home. But the person by the SUV looked lost, desperate. He changed direction. As he got closer, he saw it was a woman. She turned at his approach, and for a moment they just stared at each other through the falling snow. 2 strangers, both caught in the same impossible situation. "Are you okay?" Andre had to shout over the wind. "My car," she gestured helplessly. "I can't. It won't move. I called for help, but they said it could be hours." She was younger than him, maybe early 30s, dressed in clothes that looked expensive but inadequate for this weather. Her hands were shaking. "You can't stay here," Andre said. "I know," her voice cracked. "My daughter is home with a babysitter, and I can't get there, and I live 3 blocks that way." Andre nodded in the direction they'd been walking. "You should come with us." The woman stared at him. I'm not asking for," she cleared her throat, "anything. But you'll freeze if you stay in that car." She looked at her SUV, then at the empty street, then back at Andre. He could see the calculation happening behind her eyes. The terrible math of risk and necessity. "Okay," she said finally. "Thank you. Can you walk? Stay close." They started moving again, now a group of 3. The woman struggled in the deep snow, her dress shoes slipping with every step. Andre wanted to offer to help, but he couldn't. His arms were full with Jaden and the bag. "What's your name?" the woman asked, her voice barely audible. "Andre, this is Jaden. I'm Isabella." "Nice to meet you, Isabella. Let's get out of this storm." Isabella had made a mistake. She'd known it the moment she left the office, but her assistant had assured her the weather wouldn't get bad until evening. You'll beat it home, Jeremy had said. The highway reports are still clear. He'd been wrong. Now she was following a stranger through a whiteout, her feet numb in her designer heels, her phone battery at 4%. She'd tried calling her daughter's babysitter 3 times, but the calls kept dropping. The man, Andre, moved with certainty despite the terrible visibility. His son's face was hidden against his shoulder, but she could see the small hands gripping the man's jacket. How old was the boy? 5, 6, around Mia's age? Isabella's chest tightened. Mia would be worried by now. She always worried when her mother was late, ever since the divorce, ever since she'd realized that families could break apart without warning. I need to call my daughter, Isabella said. Can we stop? Not yet. Too exposed. He was right. They were in the middle of a residential street now with no cover from the wind. Isabella forced herself to keep walking, even though her lungs burned and her legs felt like lead. She'd grown up in this city. She'd lived through dozens of winter storms, but she'd never been caught in one like this, vulnerable, unprepared, relying on the kindness of a complete stranger. The irony wasn't lost on her. 3 hours ago, she'd been in a boardroom leading a meeting with investors, making decisions that affected hundreds of employees. Now she was stumbling through the snow, trying not to fall. There, Andre pointed. Isabella looked up. Through the swirling white, she could make out the dark shape of a building, an old brick apartment complex 3 stories tall with narrow windows and exterior stairs dusted with snow. They reached the entrance. Andre fumbled with his keys, finally got the door open, and they stumbled into the lobby. The sudden absence of wind felt miraculous. Second floor, Andre said. They climbed the stairs. Andre's apartment was at the end of the hallway, number 2C. He unlocked the door, and they went inside. The apartment was small but clean. A narrow living room with a couch and a television, a kitchen visible through an open doorway. 2 closed doors that probably led to bedrooms. On one wall, a framed photo showed a smiling black family, Andre, Jasmine, and a baby Jaden, in front of a park fountain, their brown skin glowing in summer light. Andre sat Jaden down carefully. Go get into dry clothes, buddy. I'll start some hot chocolate. Jaden nodded and disappeared into one of the bedrooms. Andre turned to Isabella. You should get out of those wet things. I can't, he hesitated. I can lend you something. It won't fit, but it'll be warm. Thank you, Isabella said. Her voice sounded strange to her own ears, weak, grateful, unfamiliar. Andre disappeared into the other bedroom and returned with a set of gray sweatpants and a flannel shirt. Bathrooms through there. Isabella took the clothes and locked herself in the small bathroom. She peeled off her soaked blouse, her dress pants, her ruined shoes. In the mirror above the sink, her reflection looked pale and shaken. She put on the borrowed clothes. They smelled like laundry detergent and were far too large, but they were dry and soft. She hung her wet things over the shower rod, then stood for a moment with her hands braced on the sink, trying to steady herself. When she came out, Andre had started a fire in a small wood stove in the corner of the living room. Jaden sat on the couch in pajamas, wrapped in a blanket, watching his father work. Sit, Andre said, gesturing to a chair near the stove. Isabella sat. The warmth from the fire touched her face. Andre went into the kitchen. She heard water running, the click of the stove igniting. A few minutes later, he returned with 3 mugs. Hot chocolate for Jaden, tea for you and me. It's ginger, he said, handing her the mug. Supposed to help with cold. Thank you. Isabella wrapped both hands around the mug, letting the heat seep into her fingers. They sat in silence for a while. The only sounds were the crackling of the fire and the wind howling outside. I need to call my daughter, Isabella said finally. Can I? Of course. Andre pointed to the phone on the side table. Use that if your cell isn't working. Isabella tried her cell first. Still no signal. She picked up the landline. Andre still had a landline and dialed the babysitter. It rang 4 times before Claudia answered. Mrs. Reed? Claudia, I'm so sorry. I got caught in the storm. Is Mia okay? She's fine. We're making cookies. She's a little worried, but I told her you'd call. Can I talk to her? Of course. Just a second. There was a rustling sound, then Mia's voice. Mom? Isabella's throat tightened. Hey, sweetheart, I'm okay. I'm safe. I just can't get home right now because of the snow. When are you coming? Probably not until morning. But Claudia is going to stay with you, okay? You'll have a sleepover. Will you be there for breakfast? I'll do my best. Okay. Mia's voice was small but trusting. Love you, Mom. Love you too, baby. Isabella hung up and sat back in the chair, suddenly exhausted. She okay? Andre asked quietly. Yeah, she's fine. Good. Isabella looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time. He was maybe her age, with tired eyes and calloused brown hands and the kind of solid, dependable presence that came from years of showing up when things were hard. Thank you, she said, for letting me in, for calling your place home. Andre shrugged. It's just what you do. But Isabella knew it wasn't. She'd spent enough time in boardrooms, enough time navigating corporate politics to recognize when someone was being genuinely kind versus when they wanted something. This man wanted nothing from her. He'd just seen someone who needed help, and he'd helped. The evening settled into an unexpected rhythm. Andre made dinner, pasta with butter and parmesan. Nothing fancy, but hot and filling. They ate at the small kitchen table, Jaden chattering about school, Isabella listening and asking questions with genuine interest. We're reading a book about penguins, Jaden said. Did you know they can hold their breath for 20 minutes? I didn't know that, Isabella said. It's because they have special lungs and they eat fish and they slide on their bellies. Jaden is big into animals right now, Andre explained. Last month it was dinosaurs. My daughter loves animals too, Isabella said. She wants a dog. Do you have one? Jaden asked. Not yet. I travel too much for work. What do you do? Jaden asked. Isabella hesitated. I work in construction, building things for the city. It was technically true, if incomplete. She didn't mention that she was the CEO, that she oversaw a multi-million-dollar company, that her decisions affected infrastructure across 3 states. Something about this small apartment, this simple meal, made those details feel irrelevant. After dinner, Jaden asked if he could draw. Andre set him up at the kitchen table with paper and colored pencils while he and Isabella cleaned up. You don't have to help, Andre said. I want to. They worked in companionable silence, washing dishes in the small sink, drying them with a worn towel. Through the window above the sink, Isabella could see the snow still falling, thick and relentless. How long have you lived here? She asked. 4 years, since my wife died. The words were matter of fact without self-pity. I'm sorry, Isabella said. It was a long time ago. Andre dried the last plate and set it in the cabinet. You said you have a daughter. How old? 6. Her name's Mia. Same age as Jaden. They returned to the living room. Jaden had finished his drawing and was showing it to his father. A picture of 3 people standing in front of a house while snow fell around them. That's us today, Jaden explained, pointing. That's me and you and the nice lady. It's beautiful, buddy, Andre said. Jaden looked at Isabella. Do you want it? She was surprised by the tightness in her throat. Really? Yeah, so you remember. I would love that. Thank you, Jaden. As the evening wore on, Jaden grew drowsy. Andre put him to bed, reading him a story in a low, steady voice that Isabella could hear through the bedroom door. When he emerged, he looked tired but content. He's out, Andre said. Storm like this, he'll sleep hard. He's a sweet kid. Yeah, he's the best thing that ever happened to me. Isabella could see the truth of it in Andre's face. The uncomplicated love, the fierce protectiveness. It was the same way she felt about Mia. You can take my bed, Andre said. I'll sleep on the couch. No, I couldn't. You're a guest, please. Isabella wanted to argue, but exhaustion was pulling at her. Okay, thank you. Andre showed her to the bedroom, a simple space with a double bed, a dresser, a lamp. The bed was made with military precision. Bathrooms across the hall if you need anything, and help yourself to water or whatever. Andre, Isabella said as he turned to leave. Yeah? Why did you help me? You don't know me. I could have been anyone. He was quiet for a moment. I guess I figure we're all just trying to get through the day without falling apart. Sometimes people need help. If I can give it, why wouldn't I? He closed the door gently behind him. Isabella sat on the edge of the bed. The room smelled faintly of cedar. Outside, the wind rattled the windows, but inside was warm and safe. She thought about her own home, the 4-bedroom house in Lakeview, the hardwood floors, the expensive furniture. She lived there alone with Mia now after the divorce. It was beautiful, but it had never felt quite as much like shelter as this small apartment did tonight. She pulled back the covers and climbed into bed. The sheets were clean and worn soft. Within minutes, despite everything, despite the storm, despite being stranded, despite the strangeness of it all, she fell asleep. Isabella woke to pale light filtering through unfamiliar curtains. For a disoriented moment, she couldn't remember where she was. Then it came back. The storm, the walk, Andre's unexpected kindness. She checked her phone. 7:15. A text from Claudia, Mia's fine. Pancakes for breakfast. No rush. Isabella sat up and listened. The apartment was quiet except for low voices coming from the kitchen. She got out of bed, smoothed her borrowed clothes, and opened the door. Andre and Jaden were at the kitchen table eating cereal. They both looked up when she appeared. "Morning," Andre said. "Coffee?" "Please." He poured her a cup from an old percolator on the counter. The coffee was strong and slightly bitter. Exactly what she needed. "How did you sleep?" Andre asked. "Better than I expected, honestly. The storm's still going. They're saying it won't let up until this afternoon." Isabella looked out the window. The street below was buried under at least 18 inches of snow, maybe more. Nothing was moving. "I should try to get home," she said, even though she knew it was impossible. "Roads are closed," Andre said gently. "Nobody's going anywhere until the plows come through." Jaden looked at her with interest. "Are you stuck here with us?" "Looks like it." "That's okay. We can play games." The morning unfolded slowly. Isabella called Claudia again to check on Mia, then settled into the strange, suspended reality of being snowbound with strangers who were becoming less strange by the hour. Jaden taught her to play Go Fish. They built a fort out of couch cushions. Andre made grilled cheese sandwiches for lunch, and they ate them while watching the snow continue to fall. In the afternoon, while Jaden napped, Andre and Isabella sat by the wood stove drinking tea. "Can I ask you something?" Isabella said. "Sure." "How do you do it? Raising him alone?" Andre was quiet for its moment. "Honestly, most days I don't feel like I'm doing it well. I'm just trying not to screw him up too bad. That's how I feel about Mia." "You're divorced?" 2 years now. His choice, not mine." Isabella wrapped her hands around her mug. He wanted someone younger, less focused on work. Apparently, I was emotionally unavailable. "Were you?" "Probably," she laughed without humor. "I built a company from the ground up. That takes everything you have. I thought he understood that. Turns out I was wrong." "Do you regret it?" "The company? No. But I regret that Mia got caught in the middle." Andre nodded. "Jaden asks about his mom sometimes. I never know what to say. She died of an aneurysm. One day she was here, the next day she wasn't. How do you explain that to a 6-year-old? "You tell him the truth," Isabella said. "That's all you can do." "Yeah, I guess." They sat in comfortable silence. Outside, the world was muffled and white. Inside, the fire crackled. "What do you do?" Andre asked. Isabella hesitated. Part of her wanted to tell him everything about Reed Infrastructure, about the projects they'd completed, about the challenges of being a woman in a male-dominated industry. But another part of her wanted to stay in this moment where she was just Isabella, not CEO Isabella. "I run a construction company," she said. "We do infrastructure mostly, roads, utilities, that kind of thing." "That's cool. It's good work." "What about you? You said you do maintenance." "Yeah, city maintenance. I fix the things most people never think about until they break." "Like what?" "Traffic lights, storm drains, street lights, emergency systems." He smiled slightly. "Unglamorous stuff." "Essential stuff," Isabella corrected. "I guess." Isabella studied him. He had no idea, absolutely no idea how valuable his work was, how much the city depended on people like him. This black man who spent his nights and early mornings out in the cold, making sure strangers were safe, had been sitting in her apartment the night before and never once tried to impress her. She wanted to tell him all of that, but she didn't. Not yet. The conversation drifted to other things. Books they'd read, places they'd lived, small moments that shaped who they'd become. Isabella found herself talking about things she rarely shared. Her father's expectations, her fear of failure, the loneliness that came with success. Andre listened without judgment, asking questions that showed he was really hearing her. When Jaden woke up, the spell broke, but the connection remained. By late afternoon, the snow had finally stopped. The plows came through around 4 o'clock, their orange lights flashing, blades scraping pavement. The city was digging itself out. Isabella stood at the window watching the street come back to life. Part of her was relieved she could get home to Mia, but another part of her was reluctant to leave this small apartment, this unexpected refuge. Her phone rang. "Mrs. Reed, the roads are clearing. Do you want me to bring Mia home?" "No, I'll come get her. I'll be there in an hour." She hung up and turned to Andre. "I should call a car service." I can drive you, Andre offered. Your truck? I got it running this morning while you were asleep. Battery issue. It's fine now. Are you sure? Yeah, no problem. 20 minutes later, they were all in Andre's truck, Isabella in front, Jaden in back, driving through the transformed city. Everything was white and still. The plows had cleared the main roads, but the side streets were still buried. Where am I going? Andre asked. Isabella gave him her address. She saw his eyebrows rise slightly. Lakeview was one of the wealthier neighborhoods, but he didn't comment. He was too busy watching the road, his brown hands steady on the wheel. They drove in silence, the heater rattling, the radio playing soft music. Jaden hummed along in the back seat. When they pulled up in front of Isabella's house, Andre whistled softly. Nice place. Thank you for everything, Isabella said. I mean it. I doubt that, he said with a small smile, but you're welcome. She reached into her purse and pulled out a business card. Here, in case you ever need anything. Andre took the card, glanced at it, then slipped it into his pocket without really looking. In a neighborhood like this, with houses worth more than he'd make in a decade at his old salary, he was very aware of being a black man stepping out of a beat-up truck in front of a Lakeview address. But Isabella's calm eased some of that tension. Take care of yourself, Isabella. You too. She got out of the truck, gave Jaden a small wave, and walked up to her front door. As she unlocked it, she heard the truck pull away. Inside, Mia ran to her immediately. Mom! Hey, baby. Isabella knelt and hugged her daughter tight. I missed you. Were you scared in the storm? A little, but I met some nice people who helped me. What people? Just some kind people. Isabella carried Mia into the living room and collapsed on the couch. Claudia brought her tea, asked if she needed anything, then discreetly left. Isabella sat there for a long time holding her daughter, staring at nothing. She kept thinking about Andre's apartment, the wood stove, the simple dinner. She pulled out her phone and looked up Reed Infrastructure, her company, her legacy, hundreds of employees, millions in contracts, projects that would outlast her lifetime. And yet somehow in the last 24 hours, none of that had mattered. What mattered was that a stranger had seen someone in need and helped them. What mattered was that there were still people in the world who opened their doors without asking for anything in return. Isabella set down her phone and closed her eyes. 3 weeks passed. Andre's life returned to its normal rhythm. Work, pickup from school, dinner, bedtime stories. The storm became just another story to tell, another winter memory filed away with all the others. But he kept Isabella's business card in his wallet. He didn't know why. He'd probably never call her. But somehow throwing it away felt wrong. Then, on a gray Tuesday morning, a letter arrived. It was in a heavy cream envelope addressed to Andre Cole in elegant print. No return address. He opened it standing in the apartment hallway, Jaden already at school, before heading to work. Inside was a single card. Mr. Cole, I would like to request a meeting with you regarding a professional opportunity. If you're available, please come to the address below at 10 a.m. this Friday. Reed Infrastructure. Suite 4000, Northbridge Tower. Regards, Isabella Reed. Andre read it twice. Then he pulled out Isabella's business card and really looked at it for the first time. Isabella Reed, Chief Executive Officer, Reed Infrastructure. His mouth went dry. She was the CEO of Reed Infrastructure, one of the biggest construction and infrastructure companies in the region. He'd seen their logo on equipment and sites all over Northbridge. They'd built the new highway interchange last year, renovated the water treatment plant, installed the fiber optic network downtown. And he'd offered her sweatpants and instant hot chocolate. Andre sat down heavily on the couch. Why would the CEO of Reed Infrastructure want to meet with him? What professional opportunity could he possibly have with a company like that? He thought about ignoring the letter. He thought about throwing it away and pretending he'd never received it. But curiosity won out. On Friday morning, he dropped Jaden at school, then drove downtown to Northbridge Tower, a gleaming glass and steel structure 40 stories tall. He felt out of place the moment he walked through the revolving doors into the soaring marble lobby. The polished surfaces, the quiet hum of wealth and power. He was very aware of his worn work boots and dark brown hands in this space. Can I help you? The security guard asked. I have a meeting. Reed Infrastructure. 40th floor. The guard checked his list, nodded, handed Andre a visitor badge. Elevators are on your right. Andre rode up in silence, watching the city fall away below him through the glass elevator walls. At the 40th floor, the doors opened onto a sleek reception area with polished wood floors and modern art on the walls. Mr. Cole, a young woman in a crisp suit, approached. Miss Reed is expecting you. This way, please. She led him down a hallway and stopped at a conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. She'll be right with you. Andre stepped inside. The conference table could seat 20 people. The view was breathtaking. Behind him, a door opened. Hello, Andre. He turned. Isabella stood in the doorway, but she looked different than she had in his apartment. She wore a gray suit that probably cost more than his monthly rent. Her hair was pulled back. She carried herself with quiet authority. This was Isabella Reed, CEO, not the woman who'd sat by his wood stove drinking ginger tea. Isabella, he said, I got your letter. Thank you for coming, she gestured to the conference table. Please sit. They sat across from each other. Isabella folded her hands on the table. I want to be transparent with you, she said. I've spent the last 3 weeks thinking about our conversation, about what you said regarding the work you do, about the storm, and how the city responded to it. Okay, Andre said slowly. Reed Infrastructure has been awarded a new contract by the city, a comprehensive emergency preparedness initiative. We're going to overhaul Northbridge's disaster response systems, make sure that what happened during that storm, people being stranded, systems failing, doesn't happen again. That's good, Andre said. The city needs that. I agree. And I need someone to help coordinate it. Someone who understands infrastructure from the ground level. Someone who knows what actually breaks and why. Andre felt his pulse quicken. You want to offer me a job? I want to offer you the position as community liaison and project coordinator. You'd work with our engineering teams, but you'd also work directly with city maintenance crews, emergency services, neighborhoods. You'd be the bridge between the people who design systems and the people who use them. Isabella, I appreciate this, but the salary is $85,000 a year plus benefits, healthcare, retirement, education assistance if you want to take classes. Andre's mouth went dry. He currently made $38,000. Why me? He asked. You could hire anyone. Someone with an engineering degree, someone with experience in project management. I could, Isabella agreed. But I don't want someone who learned about infrastructure in a classroom. I want someone who's been out there at 2 a.m. fixing a traffic light in a snowstorm. Someone who understands what matters. This is because I let you stay at my apartment. No, Isabella's voice was firm. This is because you're qualified. I've looked into your work history. Your supervisor says you're reliable, knowledgeable, and excellent with people. Those are the skills I need. The fact that you also happen to be a decent human being is just a bonus. Andre looked out the window at the city spread below them. North Bridge, the place where he'd lost Jasmine, where he was raising Jaden, where he'd spent years just trying to keep things together. I need to think about it, he said finally. Of course, take a week. The position starts in a month if you accept. Isabella stood and extended her hand. Thank you for coming, Andre. He shook her hand, then left, riding the elevator back down in a daze. That weekend, Andre couldn't stop thinking about Isabella's offer. $85,000. Healthcare for Jaden. The possibility of going back to school, maybe getting an engineering degree like he'd always wanted but never had the time or money for. But he kept coming back to one question. Was this real, or was it charity dressed up as opportunity? On Sunday evening, after Jaden was in bed, Andre called his father. Dad, you got a minute? Sure, what's up? Andre explained the situation, the storm, Isabella, the job offer, leaving out the details that would make his father worry. His father was quiet for a long moment. What's bothering you about it? I don't know if she really wants me, or if she's just trying to pay me back for helping her. Does it matter? Yeah, Dad, it matters. Andre struggled to articulate it. Because I don't want to be someone's charity case. I don't want a job I didn't earn. Son, you've been earning your whole life. You think showing up every day for 12 years to do hard, cold, thankless work doesn't count as earning. You think raising Jaden alone doesn't count? That's different. Is it? His father's voice was gentle but firm. Listen to me, pride is fine. But pride that keeps you from taking care of your kid, that's just stubbornness. If this woman sees something in you that you don't see in yourself, maybe you should trust her judgment. After they hung up, Andre sat in the dark for a long time. Monday morning, he called the number on Isabella's business card. Read infrastructure. How may I direct your call? Isabella Reed, please. May I ask who's calling? Andre Cole. One moment. There was a click, then Isabella's voice. Andre, I have a question about the position. Okay. Am I the most qualified person you could hire? There was a pause. You're the most qualified person I want to hire. That's not an answer. Yes, it is. Isabella's voice was measured. Andre, could I find someone with more degrees? Sure. Could I find someone with more experience managing large projects? Probably. But could I find someone who understands infrastructure the way you do, who has your work ethic, and who I can actually trust? No. That combination is rare. Why do you trust me? Because you helped a stranger in a storm and asked for nothing in return. Because you raised Jaden to be kind. Because in the 3 weeks since I met you, I've researched everything about you, and every single person I've talked to says the same thing. Andre Cole shows up and does the job right. Andre closed his eyes. Good. Can you start in 3 weeks? Yeah. Welcome to Reed Infrastructure, Mr. Cole. 3 months later, another winter storm hit North Bridge, but this time was different. Andre stood in the new Emergency Operations Center, a facility Reed Infrastructure had helped design and build, watching data stream in from sensors across the city. Traffic lights equipped with backup power. Storm drains with real-time monitoring, emergency shelters prepositioned with supplies. Riverside District is reporting heavy accumulation, one of the technicians called out. Dispatching crews now, another responded. Isabella appeared at Andre's elbow. She'd been in and out of the center all day, coordinating with the mayor's office. How's it looking? She asked. Good, really good. We're staying ahead of it. And they were. The systems Andre had helped implement were working exactly as designed. Plows were clearing priority routes before they became impassable. Emergency services were reaching people who needed help. The communication network was holding. Andre's phone buzzed. Jaden's school. Mr. Cole, just wanted to let you know we're extending aftercare until 6 because of the weather. Jaden is safe and happy. Thank you for calling. He hung up and felt a wave of relief. In the past, he would have been frantic, trying to leave work early, worried about getting to Jaden. Now he knew his son was taken care of. The school had protocols. The city had infrastructure. Things worked the way they were supposed to. You okay? Isabella asked. Yeah, just thinking about the last storm, the one where we met. Yeah. They stood together, watching the city weather the crisis. Outside the windows, snow fell just as heavily as it had that day 3 months ago, but inside everything was different. Thank you, Andre said, for giving me this chance. Thank you for taking it. Later, when the worst had passed and the systems had proven themselves, Andre left the operations center and drove to Jaden's school. The roads were cleared, the lights were on, everything functioned. He found Jaden in the aftercare room playing blocks with 3 other kids. Dad! Jaden ran to him. Did you see the snow? I sure did, buddy. Mrs. Patterson said you helped make sure we'd all be safe. I helped a little bit. That's cool. Andre ruffled his son's tight curls. You ready to go home? Can we drive past the big tower? 'Cause that's where the nice lady works. Andre smiled. Sure, we can drive past the big tower. They went outside together, hand in hand, into a city that was cold but manageable, snowy but safe. Spring came slowly to North Bridge. The snow melted in patches, revealing winter-brown grass and muddy sidewalks. The days got longer, trees budded. Andre had been at Reed Infrastructure for 6 months. The emergency preparedness project was nearly complete. He'd started taking night classes in civil engineering at the community college, using the education benefit from his salary. Jaden had adjusted to their new routine. They'd moved to a better apartment, 2 bedrooms, better heat, windows that didn't rattle, small things that made a big difference. On a Saturday in early April, Andre got a text from Isabella. Are you free for lunch? He hesitated, then replied, Sure. Where? Riverside Park. Bring Jaden if you want. An hour later, they met at the park. Isabella was there with Mia, who immediately ran off to play on the swings with Jaden. Isabella and Andre sat on a bench watching the kids. How's the project going? Isabella asked. Good. We're in the final testing phase, should be fully operational by June. I've heard great things about your work. I'm learning a lot. They sat in comfortable silence. A breeze moved through the trees, carrying the smell of wet earth and new growth. "Can I ask you something?" Isabella said. "Sure." "That night during the storm, did you know who I was?" "No, not until I saw your business card." "Would it have changed anything if you had known?" Andre thought about it. "No, you needed help. That was all that mattered." Isabella smiled. "That's what I thought you'd say. Why do you ask?" "Because I've been thinking about it. About what you said. That we're all just trying to get through the day without falling apart. I spent years thinking that success meant being invulnerable, never needing anyone. And then I got stuck in a storm and had to accept help from a stranger. It's not weakness to need help. I know that now." They watched Jaden and Mia play. The two children had become friends over the past months through occasional play dates and encounters at company events. "Mia talks about Jaden constantly," Isabella said. "I think she has a crush. Jaden thinks she's cool because she knows all the state capitals. They're good kids." "Yeah, they are." A moment passed. "Andre," Isabella's voice was tentative, "would you want to have dinner sometime, not as boss and employee, just as people who met in a storm?" Andre looked at her in the soft April light. She looked different than she had in either of the contexts where he had known her, neither the vulnerable woman in his apartment nor the powerful CEO in her tower. Just Isabella. "I'd like that," he said. "Good." The kids ran back, breathless and laughing, demanding snacks and water and attention. Andre and Isabella stood, becoming parents again. The moment of potential settled into something quieter. But as they walked together toward the parking lot, Andre felt something he hadn't felt in years. Possibility. 2 years later, on an evening in early winter, when the first snow of the season began to fall, Andre stood at the window of the apartment he now shared with Isabella and their blended family. Jaden and Mia were at the kitchen table doing homework together, arguing cheerfully about math problems. In the next room, Isabella was on a call with her assistant, managing some crisis that Andre no longer worried about because he knew she could handle it. The radiator clicked and hissed. The city lights gleamed below. Snow fell softly, no longer threatening, just beautiful. Andre thought about the night that had changed everything. The storm, the stranded SUV, the decision to offer shelter to a stranger. He thought he was saving her that night. But maybe she'd been saving him too. Not with money or opportunity, though those had helped, but with something simpler. Recognition. She'd seen him, really seen him. And she'd said, "You matter. What you do matters. You deserve more." And then she'd given him the chance to prove her right. "Dad," Jaden called from the kitchen, "can you help me with this?" "Coming, buddy." Andre turned away from the window, away from the falling snow, and walked toward his family, the one he'd built, the one he'd chosen, the one that had chosen him back. Outside, the storm was just weather. Inside was home,